Welcome back to M Hood Fishing, everybody. Yeah, I decided I would start here. So we're coming up on Super Bowl weekend, right? It's probably not just Super Bowl weekend. It's probably the last weekend, possibly the last weekend, possibly not. Possibly could have been past this point, but what I'm trying to get out of my mouth is this might be the end of the pre-spawn feed up for sac-a-lait or crappie, if you like, on this bayou that I've been fishing, my local bayou. It may have happened though already. We may be past it. This particular spot that I'm starting at hasn't been good for a while. However, while it was sucking, some other spots at the other end of this bayou were on fire, and then we had a bunch of weather, right? To start out, I've got a Muddy Waters bait underneath the cork. I know there's probably no sac-a-lait in this bit of water right here. We'll start here, see if we can catch a goggle eye. Anyway, so we're in this horrible pattern, El Nino pattern. We'll have a bunch of weather on the weekend. It might be chilly, and then during the week the weather could be okay or not so okay, but generally warm up, and then get hit by another storm over the weekend, a washer, and then the same thing over and over. But gradually, as we've been going through that cycle, our temperature has been ticking up, and now our highs are in the 70s during the day. Towards the end of this week, that's what it is. And then the overnights are ticking up into the 50s, whereas they were down in the 40s. Tonight's overnight is 56. It's 56 right now, and it feels nice. Not been good for fishing. This water's been dirty, real dirty, most of the week. But what's going on, even though it's not so great this cycle, eventually as the air temps tick up, the overnights, so does the water temp. And once this water temp comes out of the 50s and stays over 60 degrees, those sac-a-lait, they're going to go to spawning, and you're not going to do so good on the bank. You might get some still, but when your season starts to piddle out, when you're just getting a few, and that may have already happened, but yeah, when you're just getting a few, that means a lot of them are already spawning, and these are the late comers. Once they start spawning and they get done with that, oh, there we go, we got a fish all right on. Once they start to get off the beds, look at that, it's a red spotted. This is a garlic flavor bait. Oh, wait, that, yeah. You can start catching them again when they're done with spawning, but you're not going to get them from the bank so much. Maybe in some parts of the country, but here you're going to have to go find them in deeper water. So catching them right here might be done already. Catching them, from the bank, not from this particular spot. So it is currently after 10 p.m. I just thought I would come out and see if I could find some locally down here. We may not. We may just be catching other things. Possibility of bass, because once you leave that area of the crappie pre-spawn feed up and you get into that 60-degree water temperature zone, you're going to start to see the bass turn on doing their pre-spawn feed up, where they're absolutely feeding like crazy. There we go, another fish right there. What do we got here? Goggle eye. Look at that. Was barely working that jig. It's probably the crappie nibble that I'm putting on there, the crappie bite. So I don't think this is going to be a long, crazy fishing adventure, this video. I think it's just me coming out, seeing what I can get, because I haven't been able to get a video this week due to the weather. And there we go. Took it right under. Nice. Another goggle eye. Okay, let's walk to the bayou now. It's just a few steps. So that horrible weather cycle, it does continue, and it's getting warmer, but the cycle still continues. We are looking at another weekend of rain, lots of it. It looks kind of dirty out here, but not too bad. But yeah, I would say this water's dirty. I know you guys can't see much. Can you see a little more? I'm enhancing the footage, so you probably see more than I think you are. I don't see any feeding going on, but that doesn't mean anything. It could still be going on just underneath the surface. And we're fishing, we are about like almost 2 feet under the cork, probably a bit less than 2 feet, and we probably have a depth of 3 to 4 feet of water right where that cork is right now. Not seeing any joy yet. If you're wondering why I'm out in the middle of the night, crappie feed better during the night, especially during this time of year when they're doing their pre-spawn feed up. They're a fairly nocturnal fish, right? So that's why I'm not like out right before sunset. I had stuff to do anyway. Give it some time to come out around 10 o'clock. And just because they're not hitting here, that doesn't mean that they're done. They could be hitting closer to where their beds are, culverts and things like that. And they may be hitting here. They haven't come through this particular spot. We'll give this a few minutes, see if I pick up anything. Maybe we'll go to another spot, see what's up. Maybe not waste too much time on it tonight. We'll just see. It hasn't been really good on this particular, this particular stretch. Yeah, this particular stretch of this bayou is too close to pumping stations, not just the one we're fishing, but there's one not too far that way and one not too far that way. So you can see dirty water held in here in this stretch longer than in some other stretches that are much further from here. I am about done with this location. However, this might be the only location with all the action. It's just not very inspiring. Not very inspiring at all, but at least it's not all that boring for me. Maybe super boring for you. I've done this particular tour so many times this year looking for crappie. I have had some success on this little tour. Caught some nice crappie, but many times, just like tonight, not finding them. And then I call it, I get home, and a friend wants to go out looking for sac-a-lait on another part of this bayou that's much further from here. And I go, and there they are, just not down here where it's urban. I feel like I'm somewhere else all of a sudden. Okay, so I've been at this spot with the big light on for a while. I've had at least 2 more bites along with the first takedown that prompted me to turn this big light on. But I think it is quite possible that everything that's happened since I've been here over the past hour or more has been nothing but gar messing with my jig. I am seeing shad, and every now and then there's some big ruckus, but yeah, I think that's gar. There's a lot of gar cruising in the light right now, all spotted. And there's one checking out my cork right now. This is something that I remember happening many times over the years down here when I'm in the middle, or when I'm crappie fishing, right? When I'm sac-a-lait fishing. When I start to see a lot of spotted gar, very active, cruising around the spots where I was catching sac-a-lait, I know I'm getting towards the end of the season of them, being active right here off the bank. And that's what we're seeing tonight. A lot of gar. Just about everywhere I've been, lots of spotted gar. And to me, that means we're coming towards the end of the pre-spawn feed up for the sockeye. And yeah, they should be spawning pretty soon. We could go try to find those areas where they're spawning. Or we can just get ready for bass and other things. We're fishing with Jean-Pierre now. It's after midnight. Decided to circle back. Yeah. Woo, I'm glad I did. I'll turn on some light here. So instead of fishing everybody's favorite spot there where the bottles are just thick, I decided to throw out into the bayou. And yeah, catching fish again. That's not what I want to catch, but goggle eye, that's what that was. All right, back to everybody's spot, everybody's favorite spot. Let's see if we can pick one up. Easy peasy. I don't think I'm going to encounter sockeye tonight. Once I started seeing that large amount of spotted gar and my mind started working, I was like, yeah, we are coming towards the end of it. Could still bang into them at a different location, and definitely different water further north. It's probably still on. You just go a little further north in Louisiana and everything's different because it's further north, right? Like, water temperature is going to be a lot lower on the North Shore than here. It might just be a couple of degrees, but sometimes that's all you need. There's some fish hanging out right here in the shade of this pipe. Gotcha. What do we got? Come here. There's another little goggle eye. They do get much bigger than this. These things will be hitting crazy in March or deeper in this month. This is February right now. Goggle eye do get sizable enough to eat. And if I can get to the right water, right area to find the big ones, I will be keeping some this year. But it's just a matter of if they're big enough. A lot of times here, right from the bank, I'm not really hitting big ones. It's typically small like that. But I've caught them as big as my hand in certain areas before, especially in March. Gotcha. Oh, it's better fight, at least. Not that much bigger. A late night with the goggle eye is much better than crawling around looking for sockeye and finding absolutely nothing. Gotcha. Oh my goodness, I'm gonna turn on the light for this. Look at this. Look at the size of the jig and the size of his mouth. That's funny. I'm gonna waste a little more time here catching goggle eye. I might flip from the light to the darkness, you know, see if I can get one in the bayou, but mostly my fun is here in this trashy spot. When I'm talking about spotted gar showing up at the crappie spot or short nose gar, we're not talking about alligator gar right now. These water temps are way too cold for alligator gar, but it doesn't mean that the crappie aren't there anymore because of all the gar being there. It's not the gar chasing the crappie off. The gar indicates the water temp is coming up when all of a sudden there are a lot of active spotted and short-nosed gar, because those two gar like a colder water temp. So the water temp needs to be high 50s, 58, 59, 60 degrees, and then you're probably going to see those two species of gar super active. All that means is that your water temp is coming up. So if you're seeing a lot of gar, it doesn't mean that that is absolutely the end of crappie season at that particular bit of water. It means you're coming towards the end. You could still catch sockeye, because I've caught sockeye when I was overrun by gar. I remember that occurring many times in City Park in New Orleans. But it does mean that we're coming to the end of it, at least for this bit of water, right? We'll see what it's like if I can get to the far end where there seems to be more crappie. But I expect it to be about the same. A lot more gar than there was 2 weeks ago. Swinging them. Oh, this is another ridiculous one. Oh, this is more ridiculous than the first one I showed off. Look at that. Even smaller. Just a greedy little goggle eye. You can go back. Gotcha. Another greedy one, maybe? Well, a bit bigger than the last greedy one, but yeah. Right along this pipe here, there seems to be a lot. They're all small though, but it's typical. Like I said, I've not caught a giant hand-size goggle eye on this bayou. I've caught them a lot bigger than what I'm catching right now, but not a giant hand-size one. I have caught those down here in southeast Louisiana and in Texas. Look at my cork just going kind of nuts right there. Something, just another little goggle eye grabbed the jig and tried to run off with it. Something trying to take me right there. There's a lot of little fish right here, but that's all good, you know. It beats not catching anything tonight, but you got to come out and do this. You got to come out as much as you can during this type of season so you can catch it. You might have a really good night doing that, but it's always difficult. You know, you come out when you can. Sometimes, you know, there are people, they can fish a lot, and then there's some people that can only fish so much, one day a week maybe, and you just got to hope that that's the day where the fish are going to play with you, where everything's going to work out right? And when it's just that one day and you come out and things don't work out in the desired fashion, right? It's nice to come away from that catching something. Might not be what you wanted to catch, but it's better than putting that tail between the legs, coming home empty. I'm not saying that, you know, I'm taking anything tonight besides memories and a video. That's what I'm talking about. It's better than being skunked. It don't really matter at this point that they're all little, just that they're coming out with a hook in their mouth. That's all that matters. Wow. Yeah, I've still caught bigger than this, but that's the biggest one, right? On this session. It is now 2:30. Yeah, you're right. I am going to call it right here, right now. Thanks for watching, liking, sharing. commenting, subscribing, being a member of the channel, and I will see you next time.